Hey, boo. Welcome back to the clock out. It's your girl, Mercedes. If you're on LinkedIn, welcome in. If you are on YouTube, welcome on in. And to my TikTok family, this might be my last live with y'all. Okay? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But know that I love you all. Welcome in and happy Friday. Today we are talking about how Black women can pivot, right? Because if you're not new here, you know that I always talk about how so much of the time Black women stay in jobs too long. And I promoted this with talking about, okay, I'm not going to let an employer tell me that they don't want me twice. Okay. There is no reason to stay around and exist in energy and exist in spaces and people. And they don't want you. They don't value you. They don't appreciate you. And often the longer that we stay in these environments, the worse outcomes it has for us, for our careers, for our mindsets, for our earning potential. I talk about that a lot. Okay. So welcome in. So if you are here, say hello to me in the comments as I get onto the clock app. Y'all know the deal. Okay. I got to make sure I'm actually live over on TikTok and I can see everybody over there. So if you're on TikTok, I see y'all now. Welcome to the live. I love, love, love y'all. Okay. So before we get started, I always like to open it up into community. So, and just check in and see how you all are doing. So, of course, I created the clock out as a way for Black women to tap out of the workplace stress, tap out of everything that we have going on at work and stress, and sometimes even business, right? If you're a business owner too, you know that I talk about business content as well, and then just tap into community, right? Come here to discuss and talk about what we've got going on. And if you notice, your girl is using her big girl camera for this. I just saw it on TikTok. It looks so good. Okay, you can see my pores. Can you see my pores? Look at my pores. Okay. Anyway, so tell me if you're listening in. Let me know what you're doing this weekend to focus on yourself, right? Especially at the end of a long weekend, it can be really challenging to to disconnect from all the workplace stress, to disconnect from all of the challenges that you have at work, the toxic supervisors, the terrible environments, and tap into yourself. Oh my gosh, even more so if you have family that you have to take care of, kids, businesses that you're running outside of work. I know it can feel so hard. So let me know what you are working on, or how you are focusing on yourself. Oh my God, I can't get the stuff to stop. Stop ringing. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, y'all. Okay, so like I said, today we are talking about pivoting, making career pivots, right? So that we can be in an environment that we more so enjoy, that we love, where we feel like we can show up as our best selves and not kind of leave a lot of who we are at work, right? So welcome in. As always, if you have any questions, you are welcome to share. But I created or modified my presentation for today again from a previous presentation that I did in the community. So just dropping all this content out here. Okay. So let me go ahead and share this. Let me move it on over so you can see that all bigger and see me a little less big. Okay. All right. So as Black women, we are Black and we are brilliant. Okay. We are fabulous. And that means we can pivot, right? And then sometimes like we just don't know how to pivot. So a lot of times when Black women are reaching out to me, contacting me. They want to move into a different career. They want to make a career change. But ultimately, they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to make it work. They don't know how to talk about their skills. And so that's what we are talking about today, the art of the pivot, how we can really understand what makes us brilliant, what makes us an asset, what makes us valuable, and to build on that in a way that helps us to build confidence, right? And so that is what we are talking about today. So as we get forward, make sure as we move forward, I want a couple things, okay? If you are here, make sure that you like this, right? Liking this helps me get this out to more Black women who need this information. Share this content with other Black women who you feel like needs this information again, and then also engage, right? Engagement is always something that helps this channel to grow, helps me to continue to build and to reach more Black women. So know that I appreciate you, and however you show up today, you're also welcome to reach out to me via email or whatever, DMs, however you want to do it. But thank you for being here. Okay, so let's dive in, okay? Let's dive right in to how we can really package our Black woman brilliance. Okay, because we are the blueprint. Okay, so today we are talking about how to identify your Black woman brilliance. So maybe you're here, you don't understand, what what really makes you special, how you can market your skills, what skills you may have that are in fact marketable, but also in alignment for you, right? Because we don't want to just move from one toxic job into another. We want to move into a job that allows us to be more free, to really tap into our dreams, to be excited to go to work. Like that's what I want for us. So we're not trying to just find any job. We're trying to find one that allows us to exist as our highest best selves. I want you to be able to build confidence, right? So if you've been in an organization where they have consistently devalued you or disrespected you, whatever that is, then it can take time to really feel like you're capable of making a pivot. And that's a big thing. So we're going to talk about building confidence. And then last but not least, we are going to talk about taking action. So those are the 3 steps that I'm talking about today in detail. So get your notes together, okay? Because we're going in. It's going to be exciting. Okay. So I want to start with I'm gonna miss TikTok for the hot takes. Okay, that's what I'm gonna miss on TikTok is a hot take. So welcome into my TikTok fam. So the first thing that I'm gonna say here is that Black women are often required to be humble. We're asked to not be braggy. We're asked to not exude confidence. We're asked to shrink almost at every turn, right? And that isn't just at work. That's like socially, it's how we're raised. And we're asked to be humble. And so I just want you to know this, like Black women, that is not something that white men are asked to do. Okay. And so because of that, they don't question themselves. They don't have the same worries or fears that we have. I mean, it doesn't mean that they don't have fears, but it just means it doesn't show up in the same type of way, right? When we talk about the audacity, they have the audacity, okay? And what I want for you is for you to also have the audacity to dare and to think bigger. And so I'm telling you that, yes, we do face systemic issues in the workplace. We face systemic issues in how we show up and what we do. But I also want you to know that some of that is our own mindset, right? From how we've been raised and how we've been shown and how we've been asked to show up, excuse me. And so I just want you to know that first of all, some of this is a choice. And I don't mean that to minimize our experience, right? But I just want you to know, like, we do not have to be humble, right? Some of us do not aspire to be humble. Some of us do not. Okay. The next thing is that I think a lot of times we underestimate this idea of confidence versus competence, right? And a lot of times, especially in a job search, especially in your career, the way that you write your resume, the way that you show up to an interview, the way that you talk about yourself with your network, it's often confidence over competence, right? And so a lot of times what we hear and what we see in an interview is actually based on confidence, how you show up, how people see your skill set, how you communicate your skill set. And when we really doubt our skill set, it's hard to come in and allow people to feel that we are competent, right? And it actually has nothing to do with our skills and our experiences, right? Now, that's a lot to unpack with my HR folks and my recruiters on another day. Maybe I'll do some more content that's related to, reducing bias in the recruitment process for my HR friends, my HR girlies out there. But like I said, this is the way that it is. And there are lots of different articles and research papers that are out talking about the difference between confidence and competence and how we can provide better resources to marginalized groups and particularly Black women when we provide them more resources in the recruitment process. Okay, anyway, I could go on forever and ever and ever. But what I'm saying is if you focus on your mindset, if you focus on your confidence, that is going to take you a long way, even if you don't feel like you meet all of the skills. Okay, so we're not doing that 100% of skills met thing. Throw that out the window. Throw it out now before we get started. Throw it out. And the last thing is we make jokes about personality hires all the time. We really do. We're like, I'm the personality hire. I don't really have any skills or whatever. But I'm telling you, the personality hire is a real thing, right? They're like, we see all the potential. We see all of the ways that this person can come in and engage and like excite the community. And that I know personality hires absolutely happen for Black women. I just want you to know that it does, right? Right. We might go pet the threat, right? But it absolutely, the hire does happen. Okay. I'm not saying that you just want to go into any organization and just be okay with whatever. But what I'm saying is that if you go in and build personal connections, when you go into your interview, you are more likely to see better outcomes. It is not just about your skill set in this. Again, it's about the confidence and it's about the connections that you build. And so those connections, and I don't mean, okay, am I ever going to get to the rest of this presentation? I really mean, I do not mean the weird hidden job market stuff, right? I do not mean that your only way to find a job that you like or you want to do is by going to find the hidden job market. Okay, that is not it. It is really about building connections with anybody that you connect with related to your job search. And that could be at the point of your application and how you follow up. We're going to talk about job search strategy as we go through, but just how you show up and how you build connections is important. And I really mean this. I do not mean from just like a networking toxic job search hack things that we see out here in the career coaching community. Okay. Ask me any questions if that was not unclear. I'm trying to not go on more rants. Okay, so because of these opening hot takes, these are the things that I'm going to tell you. And some of them I already went through, but like let's make it conceptualized in a bulleted point. Like let's make it concise cuz you okay? You know how I like to talk. So the first thing is that one, your goal in your job search is to show up as authentic as you possibly can, authentic to what you want and authentic to others, right? So, what is it that you really want to do in your career? How do you know that's what you want to do? How do you communicate that passion and that purpose and that desire to what you want to do to others in an authentic way? And the other piece is that you need to understand how to build confidence around your skills, right? It is, you cannot just have a list of skills and not feel confident in them because at the end of the day, like and I've seen this, I'm saying this with love. Like I have written really great, amazing resumes that truly, fully, confidently package my client's skills. And then they will have that resume and they will not apply because they don't believe on the skills that I just put on their resume. When I was like, you just told me this is your skill set. I am reflecting you because I see you without all of the mindset blocks and all the fear, right? So this is you. So what I'm saying here is if you do not spend time on the mindset, if you do not take time to build your confidence around those skills, it doesn't matter what proactive job search things you decide to do because you will ultimately not be consistent. Said with love. Okay. And the last thing is that you need to understand how to communicate your impact, right? So if we're building connections, we're making impressions on others, it means that our ability to better talk about our skill set and relay that to others is one of the most important things that we can do in our job search. And that's not just in an interview, that's in our resume too, right? I know that you all know this. I know in many ways I'm preaching to the choir, but that's what I got to say. Welcome y'all on TikTok. I see y'all are joining. Love to see you all here. Let me know if you all have any questions as we're going through. Oopsie, sorry. I just moved stuff that I wasn't supposed to move. Oh, well. It's fine. But love y'all. Welcome in. Say hello. Okay, sorry. 1 second. As I fix what I wasn't supposed to do, what I moved. Okay, so let's talk about step one, which is getting clear. So a lot of times when people are not really doing the work that they need to do in their job search, it is because they are not clear about what their next steps are. Sometimes it's not clear in that they just don't know what to do next, like they don't have a process or a strategy. And a lot of other things, sometimes it's also that they just don't know what the right career path is. And then sometimes the lack of clarity is even more so about like whether or not this is the right step, right? So they might have a title in mind, they might have a job in mind, but they don't move forward because they're just not clear on a lot of things. Okay. So I want to talk about one way to get clear. And I talk about this a lot. It is called ikigai. It means the reason for being. And I use this with my coaching clients. I also think it's a great thing to talk about if you're building a business. But because we're talking about more career related stuff today, I want to talk about the ikigai as a reason for being. It is a Japanese word. There's a whole book behind it. If you are interested in that, let me know. It's in my Amazon storefront if you want to go get the book, just because it's something that I reference a lot. But essentially, it's based on 4 buckets. It's what you love doing, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. I conduct this in a massive brainstorming session with my clients. And so if you're going to do that, I recommend that you do the same. Oops, sorry, I forgot to pull this over here. I'm wearing booty shorts. Hopefully y'all didn't see that. I have a journal that's called the Career Love Journal. And I have prompts that help you talk about these things and help you kind of find your center for this. And it's in the discovery part of this journal. You can get it for free in my bio, or you can, if wherever you are, if you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, it's usually linked somewhere. So just go find my website and it's like right there. And you can download it for free, or if you want a physical version, you can do that. But it helps you to brainstorm through some of these things. Okay. But this is the exercise that I follow myself as well as for clients. I talk about a cautionary tale where I actually didn't follow this process the last time I launched my job search. And I spent a lot of time spinning my wheels on a job that was not or pursuing a career path that was no longer aligned for me. And I pivoted from HR to DE&I, right? So I'm about to talk about what that was, but just know, even myself as a career coach, right? Like I say this with love, even myself as a career coach, I took a lot of missteps on understanding what this meant for me. So this is not an easy thing to do. You have to be really honest with yourself as you're going through this. Okay. So you're trying to find the intersection of all of these things. So this is a little bit, I actually pulled this from my own Ikigai exercise. I'm not just blowing smoke. Like I did this myself. And so I went through and I talked about all of the things in each of these buckets, right? So under what do I love? I said that I loved HR, I love DE&I, I love coaching, I love training, and I love consulting. So those are the things that I really love. I usually like it at a higher level, right? Like, so things that have an impact, but like I knew that going into it. So I didn't really need to like say, okay, like I don't want to be like, just, kind of somebody on an entry level position, right? Oh, hey, Talana. Hey, mommy. That's my mom. Thank you for liking the live. Welcome in. Welcome in. Y'all on TikTok, y'all get to spend some time with my mom. Because this might be our last live together. Okay. Me and my mom do lives on TikTok, and they're a lot of fun. So we might go live later if she decides to be with the laughs and the giggles. And that's not what I would have said if I wasn't on live. Okay. Y'all know what I would have said. Okay. So what the world needs. So I think the world needs diversity, equity, inclusion experts in coaching. I think we need better hiring practices. Y'all heard me go on that rant earlier, right? It's an alignment. Y'all heard me stay away from the rant. I also think we need equitable practices, right? That give people what they need where they are. If you missed my DE&I rant 2 days ago, was that on Tuesday, I think? Was that on Monday or Tuesday? Anyway, there was a whole rant. You can go watch it. I talk about diversity, equity, inclusion because we do not have time to discuss all of those today. What I can be paid for, I decided that like I could be paid for something that I was already doing, talent acquisition, because of my focus in DE&I. I was like, okay, I could focus on being in a DE&I role. Like I love programmatic pieces, which I'll get to in just a minute. So maybe it could be a program manager, or maybe it could be a consultant. This is really what I wrote down, y'all. I play with y'all. Okay. And then over here, I have what I'm good at, right? I'm creative. I like problem solving. I love training, teaching, coaching. So that was in some of those other spaces. I do really love strategy. I love, 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 love setting out a strategy. Oh my gosh, it's the funnest thing. I know y'all put like, girl, what? I really love it. Okay. I love project management. I love creating programs. All right. So y'all gonna hear about the Career Love Coaching Program. Okay. Okay. Y'all gonna hear about it. And I love recruitment and human resources, right? So what I had to figure out was the intersection of all of them, right? So that is what Ikigai is. So when you have Ikigai and you only look at a certain circle or a particular set of circles in combination, but you don't look at all of them, you're often out of alignment. And so I remember like when I first started teaching a lot about this, somebody was like, well, I don't even understand this because this is, I'm already in a position that that I think I should be in based on this. And I said, so what don't you like about this? And they said something like, oh, well, I don't get to connect with people anymore. And I said, well, would you have put that in the like what the world needs or what you love as connecting with people, right? And they were like, oh yeah. So I said, so if you were able to connect with people more in your current position, would you really like your job again? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, see, like one section of this could be in misalignment and you could then not like your job or not like your work, right? Okay, there is a process. So we want to look at all 4 of these circles and see where they overlap. Okay, so your goal in this is to say, I'm going to focus on the common thread. What do I see in every single bucket? So as I took this and I analyzed my own Ikigai to find what's in every single bucket, these were a couple of things that I found. My intersection in all of these was DE&I, HR, strategy, training, continuous improvement, and program management. Okay. That is what I figured out. So I found out through this that I didn't want to do HR without DE&I. I didn't want to do DE&I without HR. I did not want to, I wanted to do strategy, right? I wanted to do higher level, higher order thinking to be more proactive, to look at this from a higher level. I love training. I love making things better. I wanted to oversee programs. I just want you to know that this exact intersect was the role that I was hired into. So before I go on, I want to tell you this. Often we think in our career that we don't have all of the right skill sets in all of the right ways. I could have gone into my job search and said, "Oh, well, I'm in HR. I don't have enough DEI experience." Or, "Okay, I do so much DEI recruitment. I don't have the right HR experience." Or, "I haven't done DEI strategy, so I can't go into a role that asks me to do DEI strategy." I did a lot of program management, but like, okay. But anyway, so I'm saying there's a lot of things that you could see in this list where I could have really discounted my skills. But the fact of the matter is, employers are looking for unicorns. We talk about it as, oh my gosh, employers are looking for unicorns. Well, you know who are unicorns? Black women are unicorns. Okay. Black women are the unicorns. We are the blueprint. We are the everything. And we bring all of these skills and do it 10 times better. I know you know that. I know you know that you can do it better. And so the fact that you would discount your skill because you don't have a formalized education or you haven't done that full time is a discredit to yourself, right? So when I talk about really understanding what your skill set is, not discounting yourself, working on your mindset, working on your confidence, this is what I mean. And so if we're not able to see ourselves as the unicorn that we are, we're going to miss opportunity. We are going to miss being the opportunity for the unicorn, right? And I'm being honest. I'm not being cocky. I mean this. I was the unicorn in my applicant pool, right? Because of the unique experiences that I brought. All of us can be the unicorn of our job search. Okay. Okay. I know. You are a unicorn. You need to print that out, put it on a shirt. I am the unicorn. Okay. Um, Okay, so for this, like, if you're like, "Girl, I don't know how to do this. What am I supposed to do?" I do have a full video. This is not the correct thumbnail for it, but I was like, I'm not gonna go find the thumbnail. There is a video. There is a stream that I did. I talked about it yesterday too. A stream that I did going through the Ikigai exercise. You can go watch it. It's on YouTube. It's on I don't know. Oh, it is on LinkedIn. I did do that live on LinkedIn about like I think it was like probably a year ago actually. So it's there if you need help. Go watch the video. Look at the growth, okay? Because that was one of my first videos that I did for my community. I had that weird blue black backdrop and the lighting was terrible, but look at me. You can see my pores today. We evolve, we grow. Okay, so building the confidence piece. Y'all didn't think I was going to let you go without talking about mindset. No, I'm not letting you go. I'm not even like, I'm only a third at this point through this presentation. Y'all rocking with me? Are y'all rocking with me? You rocking with me? Okay. Um, so building confidence is, again, I think a key piece of that. I've said this already. And I think in order for us to truly be able to pivot, to make a move, we have to believe that we can do it. And so by that, we have to really start to unpack those negative beliefs, right? Where I was saying, I could have gone into this and said, I'm not capable of this, that, or the other, right? But in fact, I was, and I am. I am that girl. And so the first thing that I want you to start thinking about is like, what are the negative beliefs that you have? I want you to start thinking about possibilities of what's different, which is an empowering what if thought, right? Because I think a what if thought, I think allows us to softly challenge the negative belief, right? Because it's really hard to go from like, I don't have the right skills to I have the right skills. Like, it's like, do I really believe that? But what if we had a really powerful what if thought that could help us think that through, right? And then if you get there, right? Because all of this is truly like feeling comfortable over time, right? Like you don't just shift your mindset, you don't just shift your beliefs over time, you don't just shift who you think you are in your identity in a day, right? I mean, unless there's something traumatic that happened, because that happens too. but but how do you kind of softly go from that negative belief to the positive belief and really rephrase it? So what I would say is if you're here today and you don't know, you've never really worked on affirmations, you've never really worked on your mindset or your thoughts, then to still write it, like get out of your own way, still write it. And if you don't believe it today, that's okay. I believe that you will believe it later. Okay. Okay. You will. Um, and then What is a positive action that you could take based on that new positive belief? Oh, hey, TikTok. I see lots of y'all. Thank you for the likes and the love. I see y'all. And YouTube and TikTok, YouTube and LinkedIn, y'all are a little quiet. So say hello. Just say hey. Give me a little emoji. Come on. Come on in. So then we want to take the positive action, is basically what I was saying. So this exact exercise that you see on screen is in my journal. You can go get it. Okay, it's there. And then you can kind of go through this yourself. Where is it? Okay. This is here. Everything's in this journal because I wanted Black women to have this at home, in the comfort of their own home. There. Okay, I went to the wrong page. So let's walk through what's on screen, right? Oh, one thing about the positive action before we walk through on screen is that a lot of times we don't see ourselves in the ability to take that positive action yet. So you can take yourself out of that and say, if I was in this XYZ um, situation, if I was giving advice to somebody else, what would be the positive action? Or if I really believe that, what would I do? Right? Because sometimes we can just take the action and run with it, even if we don't really fully believe the belief, if we're going to be committed to the action. Talk about action later, but that's important. Okay, so negative belief. So you might be thinking, okay, I want to do this pivot, but I do not feel like I have the right skills to do this job, right? That's how a lot of us feel, right? I felt like that in some ways when I was moving into DE&I, because I was like, well, I do DE&I work, but like, what about so much of the other elements of DE&I that are outside of HR? Like, how do I get comfortable with that, right? How do I learn more? And so that was definitely something that I had to learn and be comfortable with. Then the what if thought, right? So what if I actually found an employer that valued my existing skills and abilities, right? We like discount ourselves, right? We're like, we can't do that. But it's like, we don't know what an employer is going to think about our experience. They might see us as a unicorn. So what if they really did? And then you go into that positive belief, right? Like, would an employer love to hire me based on that belief? Maybe that's true. And like, let's make that our new belief, right? If you are having a hard time with this, changing all of these new beliefs into affirmations would be great. So that's how I got. So if you all see my affirmations online, that's how I got to this. Employers would love to hire me based on my skills and abilities and experience or whatever. And so the positive action is this. If I knew that employers really wanted to hire me, if I knew I was a unicorn for sure, I would absolutely apply to jobs that I'm passionate about, even if I'm not sure I have all of the skills, right? Because the employer that's looking for me is out there. Mm-hmm. 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 Hey, Cherry Blossom. Good to see you. Welcome into the live. This might be our last live, Cherry Blossom. Okay. Love y'all out there. Okay. Number 2, not our last live. Our last live on TikTok. I'm going to be here for y'all on LinkedIn and YouTube. In morning. It's okay. Hey. Welcome into the live on TikTok, y'all. Okay, so step 2 is once you have kind of figured out what your Black woman brilliance is, where your focus is, what your ikigai is, step 2 is to identify and align, right? So now that you know what you want to do, you need to go out there and find that in the job market. What is the title? What is the skills? What is the experience? I know. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's sad. Okay, I'm sorry. Somebody was like, no, this is our last live. It's Cherry Blossom. I'm so sorry. Okay. Might go live later just for giggles. Okay. Whew, okay. Identify and align. And so again, just to reiterate, because I got distracted, you want to find your skills and your abilities out there in the job market in a way that aligns with your ikigai, right? So I talked about DE&I talked about program management, I talked about project management. Now this is not the job the job description for the job that I applied it to that I said I was a unicorn for. But essentially I just pulled a job description out there and just put it into this presentation kind of as a way to teach you all how to go through this, right? So a lot of times we don't see ourselves in the job description because we haven't spent time identifying and aligning it with our skill set. So what I recommend, you can do this while you're on the live, you can go find a job that aligns with your ikigai, aligns with your Black Woman Brilliance, pull that and go through this with me, right? So here is a job description. These are all of the skills, abilities, and what I call KSAs. Again, I'm going to really like talk about this way too much. Sorry, I just dropped something on the floor. This exercise is in here. It's in here. Go download this after the live. It will help you. So when I was going through this, there were a couple of KSAs. Now there's a lot of KSAs in there. I just pulled out the ones that I needed for like the exercise, right? So again, projects, training, D&I education, change management, curating content, D&I concepts and framework, cultural competence, human resources, and D&I challenges. Those are all of the things that I found. I pulled them out, right? Which, some of these are different skills, but I do love, like, I see the continuous improvement with the change management. I see the curate content with the education, talking about D&I, like HR, right? So these are all of the things that was in my Ikigai that I found in this job description based on keywords, right? So some of us are like, how am I supposed to find this job? That's the unique thing. Just you look at keywords. If you like project management and HR, type in HR and D&I and project management, right? Thank you for the likes. So there are essentially so many ways. Also, thank you for sending the gifts. I'm not getting notifications of the gifts, but I see that my gift goal is changing. So thank you so much for the TikTok gifts. Sorry, it's not telling me. That's kind of weird. Maybe they're like, y'all are off the app, so bye. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so now that we know that this job description is aligned with where we want to pivot, now we need to start telling our stories, right? We need to start actually providing evidence to ourselves that we are capable of this experience and capable that we have the experience and we're capable of this job, right? Well, let's talk about storytelling, okay? Because a career pivot is all about the stories that you tell yourself and others. Like, if you take nothing away from this live, pivoting is all about the stories that you tell yourself and others. I'll put that on a shirt. I don't know. So I just pulled one of the KSAs to talk about a little bit of my experience, right? So your goal now is to tell a story about each of those KSAs so that you can believe it and that you can tell others in a way that they believe it too. And so one of the ones that I pulled out is DEI learning curriculum. That's one of the things that was on there. So my story with that is that I did, before I applied, well, this position I didn't apply to, the position that I did apply to, I talked about my experience with this, right? And so I do have experience and background creating and curating DE&I content that fostered an inclusive culture or environment in my career, right? In my last job, I did inclusive recruitment and hiring content, of course, like outside of work, really, and then talk about that a lot in my interview. But I wanted people to know that I did have a platform, so I was very unapologetic about that because I was not leaving my business for any employer. And so, of course, I did a lot of that in career content outside of work. But also at the beginning of my career, a lot of the HR content that I was doing was being more inclusive in recruitment, was being more inclusive in the performance review and performance management process, right? So there is absolutely ways that you can pull this out, even if it wasn't the right, like even if it wasn't in the exact same term. And that's what we're talking about, the transferable skills. So we're going to talk about that next, because I was able to pull from skill sets and experiences that wasn't quote unquote direct experience, right? But it's how I looked back at that and redefined it for my next role. That is the art of the pivot. That is the art of the unicorn. So you might be like, but Mercedes, I don't have a story. It's not relevant. I was like, I bet you do. You know how many people come to me and be like, oh no, I don't have any. I bet you do. I can't say that word because they might be like, get off TikTok, okay? But I'm coming for you, okay? We're gonna talk. I see you, you see me. Okay, so yes, we are going to leverage skills, right? And the way that you can we're going to leverage transferable skills. And the way that you can leverage transferable skills is to put aside whether or not you feel like you have that experience in the exact way that they've asked of it. You are going to think back across your entire career, because a pivot is not just about redefining your current position and what you think of the current position. It is about reevaluating all of your experience and to support this new pivot, right? So that is what often people get wrong with branding, especially when they are making a career pivot, is that they only think that they have to work on their last job and communicate why their last job made them a great fit for this. It's like, no, I'm going way back to the internship. I'm going way back to the first job, to the entry level position, and redefining it, right? Because that, again, that is how you become the unicorn, right? You're bringing on all of these different perspectives and these unique experiences that ultimately bring you together to be the perfect person for the job. Okay. Let me say it again. You are the unicorn. Okay. So when you're pulling these together, you're thinking back to your experience, you want to ask yourself, what is the most relevant story that I have to the position, right? What is the most aligned thing from a story perspective, what I've done in the past? And then you want to talk about what's important, right? So what is the most, like, you don't want to just pick like something that's kind of like average, right? You want to talk about the big projects that you've done, the big impact that you've made, right? Because pivot, what is really cool about a pivot is sometimes people will hire you based on potential. And I know you might be coming to me and saying black people don't hire black women based on potential, right? But again, if you're making the connection, it's really compelling. Okay, I'm just telling you that it works. I'm telling you that it works. I've been there. I promise you. um Especially as somebody who's trying to move into management. So if you're out there and you're really trying to move into management, this is for you. Okay, this is for you. Okay, so this is really what you have to do. You have to start looking back at your skills and experience, right? So when I was telling you about the pivot from HR to DE&I, when I went back to my internship experience, I was like, okay, they're talking about creating DE&I curriculum. I didn't create DE&I curriculum. I didn't think at the time I created DE&I curriculum at the time, right? Because I didn't have the words for DE&I back then. But I was creating content that helped leaders be better leaders, to make better decisions, to be a better trainer, to be a better coach, a better mentor. And so that content that I was creating in reality was DE&I training, right? A lot of some of that, I shouldn't say a lot, but a good portion of that training was teaching them about discrimination, teaching them about the impacts, how to be better interviewers, right? And even though, again, I didn't have the words to call that diversity, equity, and inclusion, it was absolutely aligned. So we have to really think about our skill set in a different way in order to be comfortable moving forward. And then importance, right? So it wasn't just that I created the content, right? It is that it in turn led to more diverse hires at the organization, right? So it's not just relevant, it's also important. Like, what is the importance of what we're communicating here? Okay, let me know if you all have any questions on anything. I feel like sometimes it can feel really challenging to talk about transferable skills, get comfortable being uncomfortable exploring them. So just let your girl know. Okay. Um, Pivot with confidence. So before we go into this, let me know in the comments, what is the most like stressful thing that you feel about making a pivot, right? What are you worried about? What keeps you up at night? What scares you about making that type of move? Let me know. And while you're typing, I'm going to go get my lip gloss cuz your girl is struggling. Sorry for the silence. Maybe you're okay with the silence. Okay, let those comments roll in. I'm going to circle back to them if you post the questions or the thoughts, right? So feel free, even though I'm going to keep going, just let me know. Okay, so this is really step 3. I made a typo. I wasn't going to close out the thing to fix it. But step 3 is pivoting with confidence, right? And so I told you that even if you are feeling like you're not really sure about the experience, if you can still take action in your Delulu era, in believing in that it's possible, and taking the action that would imply that it's possible, right? Based on it being possible, even if you don't fully believe it yet, that's what I want you to do today. So again, if you leave this with anything, I don't remember what I said earlier. I don't remember what I said earlier. But if you leave with the second other thing, take action, right? Take action is some of the most powerful things that you can do to eventually have your identity and your beliefs catch up to you, right? Okay. So let's talk about job search strategy. So you've decided what you wanted to pivot to. You've identified how your skill set aligns, and now you're ready to actually do the work. You're ready to get your resume together. You're ready to start interviewing, those types of things. I want you to set goals. So it's so important as you move through your job search to really set some goals that keep you accountable to them, right? And I always say to set these goals when you are in a good headspace, right? Because if you're in a bad headspace, then you may not set goals that are ambitious enough. You may kind of undersell yourself for what you think you can do. And so I think it's always better, especially when you're doing strategy or goal setting, to make sure you're in a good space. So go experience that radical self-care, go for a walk. My fiance told me to go touch grass because I told him I was just leaving the country earlier. He said that in a loving way. I know a lot of people say go touch grass, and I did go outside. I was like, you know what? I'm stressed. I am upset. Burn it all down kind of energy. I need to go touch some grass. And I did. I did go touch some grass. Okay, so when are you going to start your job search? I don't just mean like, oh, okay, I'm going to go look for jobs. Like, no, when are you going to actively start applying, right? Because there's a lot of things that has to happen before you actively start applying, right? You have to get your resume. Well, you have to do all of this mindset work, right? I'm not saying to pause it, but you really have to start to rethink your skill set, right? That is a part that I mean about personal and professional branding. So you need to do that first. And then as you start to get more clear on that, then you can start with your resume, right? Then you can start looking for more of those jobs, right? So that you can start applying, right? So you need to kind of set that date of when you will actually start applying, and then figure out what is it that I need to do before that to get your resume ready, right? Resume writing is a hard exercise of self-awareness and discovery and being uncomfortable in a pivot. So give yourself enough time to really think through those things and work on the mindset. Number 2, when will you accept your dream job offer? I know for me, talking about how I can accept that dream job offer or when I will accept it gives me the motivation to keep moving forward, especially if we are in a toxic environment, right? Because like all that we want to do is get out of there, right? And so being really focused on a date and also aggressively moving so that you can meet that date is something that really keeps me motivated. Now, all of our productivity strategies, all of those things, like I love a good gamification, figuring out how to do it better, faster, more efficiently, whatever you want to call it, will keep me moving. But maybe that's not for you. Maybe that keeps you, maybe that stresses you out. Okay. We're all different people. That's okay. I'm just saying what will work. But for me, setting a date that you're moving towards so that you can keep taking action, I think is a really great thing. Next thing is, when will you start each of your job search activities? Now, I'm going to tell you about what those job search activities are, because there are basic activities and there are advanced activities, and we will do them, but just know that you need a date for those. Um, and then how will you make time to work on each of those activities, right? So for the basic activities that I'm about to tell you, those are things that every time you apply to a job, you are going to expect to do or plan to do. And so that means you need to dedicate time to focus specifically on those basic activities. And then there are advanced activities on top of that that you then need to focus on. And those advanced activities come after you have already finished the basic activities, but they are things that will accelerate your job search. Okay. So you need to set aside time for both, recognizing that you're going to prioritize your time for whatever the basic activity is. I know you don't know what those are yet. I'm getting to it, but I'm just saying you need to set aside time either way, right? Whether it's like every single day, I'm going to do this for an hour, 2 hours. Every Saturday, I'm going to spend 3 hours doing this. I don't care how you do it. Just set aside the time. Okay. And then the next thing is, how will you stay accountable? So for me, I really love co-working. I have accountability partners. Some of them you see on these lives all the time. Some of them we check in. We were on a call last night talking about accountability, okay? Because that's how we get things done, working in community. And having people cheer us on. And I don't mean accountable, like people use accountability in a variety of ways. I do not mean a punitive accountability, right? I mean an actual accountability that keeps us motivated. Oh, wow. 1 second, y'all. I think my camera was like, girl, bye. Well, we tried it out. Just a second. Wow. Well, I might have to do the rest of this live without it. I don't really know what happened. Oh, I think my camera was like, bye. Okay, well, now we know I do actually really need my secondary battery. I'm back. I'm here. All right. Well. We learn, we live and we learn. That was kind of one of my worries about using my fancy camera. Now that I'm not using the fancy camera, you can see it. That's my baby. Okay, but she said she's out of power. She said you got 45 minutes. You have 30 minutes? Okay. TikTok, I'm gonna miss you. Okay. So, our basic job search strategies are to identify jobs, apply, follow up, interview, follow up, negotiate, accept or decline, right? Those are basic things that everybody needs to do as they're moving through their job search. Okay. So, essentially what that means is every time you're going through a job search strategy, what I do personally is that I essentially go out, search for all of these jobs, and then I put them on a spreadsheet, and then as I have time during the week, I will go apply to them. It feels a little bit better to not be overwhelmed by the looking on a LinkedIn or looking on a whatever job board that you choose to use. Like, it just feels a little bit better to me. So if that feels good to you, go ahead and do that. And then that way you can really sit and apply. A lot of times people are asking me questions in this job market about how many applications they should be applying to at any given time. Girl, the job market is insane. It is trash. It is as stressful as you think it is. It is not you. It is these people out here, okay? The job market is a lot. And so I would say what is the right amount to apply to? As many as you possibly can get to. If I were launching a job search this week, I would have tried to apply between 10 to 20, if not more, jobs a week. I know that is challenging, and I know a lot of us are used to tailoring an application for every single job. I actually find that that's kind of challenging in this job market to get out the level and the volume of applications that we need to be successful to actually get a return rate. Like, in all honesty, I mean this. Like, even as somebody who's really good at branding, who's somebody who's a coach who previously would only have to get out about 10 to 15 applications when she launched a job search, that is very different now, where it's like, oh, you'll be lucky if you get 5 callbacks out of 50 applications. Like, I'm saying that because I just want you to know. You're welcome. It's rough. It is rough out there. So I just want you to know that it's not you, and just to keep going. And so a lot of times that's why that mindset piece is so important, because we're sitting out there applying, we're not hearing back from anybody. And then we're like, "Oh my gosh, we can't do this. It's rough." Like, it is rough. It is rough for everyone. It is rough. It is rough. It doesn't matter if you got a professional resume. It doesn't matter if you tailor every single resume. It doesn't matter if you sometimes it doesn't matter if you have a basic resume. Okay, it's rough. It's rough. And so I would say at this point, you going through and tailoring it is just kind of incrementally increasing your. I'm not saying not to tailor. I do think you should tailor. My approach to this is to find a representative job description that you really think aligns, and that is that could kind of hit multiple jobs in the same function. Now, I'm not saying, like, for instance, I was talking about being interested in DEI and HR. I do not mean a resume that works for both DEI and HR. I mean a resume that is representative, that could meet the qualifications and the skills needed for most DEI roles, right? And then if there's a job that you're really excited about, then you can kind of tailor it and adjust it just a little bit, right? I know, breathe. But it's not you, and anything that you can do to not lean into the rejections and understand that you are still that girl, that you are still the unicorn despite all of those rejections. It it is good. My mom's on the YouTube, the TikTok live. So she she probably remembers that moment where I was so stressed out and I was in such a bad headspace, and I like called her crying. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, I guess I gotta like stop my business because I can't manage this too. It's just too much stress. And when we talk about accountability, when we talk about community, like, I know we all don't have people to tap us and say, "Hey, keep going." If you want me to be that person, slide into my DMs. I will tell you that you can do this. You can keep going. You are the unicorn. You got this. Okay. So one of the missed opportunities in this basic, I know I'm like spending a lot of time on this slide, but one of the missed opportunities on this basic job search strategy is the follow up. So people are like, oh, well, I have to network and do all of these other things that are extra in this advanced section. Before you get over here, you need to do follow-up. So every time that you apply, if you can find somebody on LinkedIn, if you can find an email, if you can respond back to the email, if you can find in like somebody in recruitment or HR or somebody who posted the position, like, send a nice connection email. It does not mean that you are going to send them an email saying, hey, interview me. Hey, I'm the best person for the job. Hey, or harassing them about the status of your application. It does not mean that. It just means that you want to build a connection, right? I started this live talking about the importance of building connection. And so what you want to do is reach out. So a lot of times I'll reach out and I'll share something like, hi, my name is Mercedes. I just applied for this position. I'm extremely interested. Here's a couple of things about me. Also, just for your use and convenience, I did attach my resume to this. I look forward to, hearing back from the hiring manager or the recruiters. Maybe I don't know if this is a recruiter or not, or the hiring manager, or the recruiters, to learn more. And appreciate your consideration for my application. If there's any questions that you might have, please let me know. If I don't know that that person's the right person that I reach out to, I sometimes will say, if you're not the right person, I would love if you wouldn't mind sharing this with the individual who is in charge of recruitment, right? And so that has, yes, led me to having conversations with individuals in pretty big roles. Not all of those worked out, right? Some of them led to additional conversations, some of them did not. But you having a really professionally written outreach sometimes kind of tips you over into having those discussions. Also, in this, do not be afraid to go too high up. I mean, I'm obviously if it's a big organization, you're not going to reach out to the CEO, but I've actually had more success reaching out to that higher level director person, because then they're more likely to send it down the chain, and the person down the chain is more likely to respond because somebody up the chain sent it to them. That's a little manipulative, but that's fine. I'm just saying that the outreach helps. I know I'm going way into detail, but let me know if this helps, if this resonates. Okay. So next part is thinking about the interview. And yes, I know people have a lot of mixed feelings about this. I still will send a thank you letter. I will sometimes follow up with a physical thank you letter. If it was an in-person interview or something like that, or I know where that person works, they work in a corporate office, even if I'm looking at a remote job. So never underestimate the personal touches that you can make. It absolutely made a difference in my job search. And I would love, as a recruiter, I know some recruiters don't like it, but I would love candidates who sent a really thoughtful thank you letter, right? And that's because I invested a lot in my candidates, right? I mean that. I don't know. I know there's a lot of high volume recruiters that are just I'm just churning, I'm just setting up meetings, but it means a lot to recruiters who like that kind of thing. It did for me. Okay, so now we talked about basics. Whew, I'm sorry, I got stuck on basics for a little bit, but whatever. I'm just throwing it all out there. Y'all got all the information, y'all got all the tea about making a career pivot. So, what I find that people mess up with is the advanced job search strategies, right? So, if you are currently employed, if you have something that's taking up most of your day, you should only be picking one thing to do out of this right list, right? Some of y'all will be picking out 2, 3, 4, and then wonder why you're having such a hard time, or you can only get out one application. These things are things that happen after you've done the basics, getting your application out there. Some people might say, well, Mercedes, I take a networking approach. Okay, that's fine. If you are taking a networking approach, you're still going to identify targets. You're going to reach out to them. You're going to follow up. You're hopefully going to connect or interview with them. And this, if you're taking a networking approach, this is still the basics. But now when you go out and you're thinking about more networking, you're thinking about people outside of your current network or whatever, then that's still an advanced strategy of going to look for more different ways to network, right? The rule still remains the same, because we get too caught up in trying to do everything, particularly with all of the skill, all of the job search hacks and the things that they tell us to do or require us to do, right? Okay. So, oh, wait a second. My mom sent me a message. Do. What is she saying? What? I'm saying some weird stuff. Okay. Talking about TikTok still be here on Monday. Why would it still be here on Monday? Oh, because the enforcement thing? I don't know about that. Okay. Okay. So, advanced job search strategy. So, I'm going to recommend that you only pick one of these 5. So, the 5 are skill building, which are things like going to get education, going to take a course, going to take a certification. Research, which means that you really do a lot of research into a job before you apply so that you can tailor things to a higher level, right? And so that might mean, again, those jobs that you're really excited about, going through and writing a detailed cover letter, reaching out and finding all the right people to connect with. Like, it's a different level of really focusing in on a job and really going in to essentially better your outcomes because you know so much, right? And it's connected to some of those other things, but it's based on you trying to get as much knowledge as you can about a job as you're applying, right? And again, people try and do this with all these other things, and it's really just stressful. Networking, right? What is networking, right? Going out and building connections. That's all that you need to do, right? Like, am I going to events? Am I going to virtual meetups? Am I going to an association? Am I looking on LinkedIn? Like, there are a variety of different ways to network. However, you decide to do that. Advanced job search strategy. LinkedIn. So there's a lot of different strategies on LinkedIn. Woo, your girl is talking a lot. That could be, going through posts and comments and identifying people who are, basically in that position, people who are posting about those types of positions, people who are hiring those types of positions. And you're not just like doing it on like a transactional way of engaging, but you're also like talking with them. You're engaging on their content. You're looking it up. You're posting your resume places. You're doing things like, I'm open to being hired. You're sending them, in mails. Like, this is a very robust take. You're also maybe creating content on there that talks about your expertise, right? So again, if I was in recruitment, I was taking that approach, I might start talking about recruitment on LinkedIn or best practices or things like that, things that got me attention or more people on my profile. Okay. And the last thing is mentoring. So, a lot of times when we're making a career pivot, getting some insider knowledge from somebody who's already in the field is super helpful, right? So, in this case, right, if I wasn't quite sure about like what really what DEI professionals did, what what skill set was needed, what people are really looking for in an interview or a resume for DEI professionals, I might go see who's in my network that's already in DEI. I might go connect with somebody who, again, like, I have a lot of people that will come and do coaching with me because I come from an HR background and they really want somebody who has expertise in HR to teach them about it. Yeah, like, they'll come get that mentoring from me. It's not mentoring, but, they'll come get mentoring even though it's in the context of coaching, right? And so we can go find out and seek out people who are very experienced in a variety of ways to kinda help us with that. Okay. Woo! I'm talking a lot. So, what about interviewing though? Like, you're like, okay, girl, you talked about all this, but like, a big part of the pivot is getting through the interview, right? And feeling confident that you do have those skills and you can portray it to others. So, I was talking about storytelling earlier. If you can tell a story, you can make a pivot. So, there are a few elements about star stories that I think are helpful to think about. And so, when you're telling a story, Star Story is not unique to me, right? It's an industry standard of how a lot of people expect you to answer interviews. So if you haven't learned about Star Stories, I'm sure I have whatever. I don't even remember the last time I made content about Star Stories, but I'm sure they're out there. Like, go find them, but just look it up in general. Okay, so Star Story stands for situation, task, action, and result. And so every time you're telling somebody a story, you want to tell them these types of things so that you can tell a full story. So a lot of times what will happen when job seekers go into an interview is that they don't give enough detail. They talk about their experience, they talk about it from a high level, maybe the project, but they don't take a step by step. I always say that a good sign that you're telling a robust enough story is I kind of feel like I could take the steps without you being there or me understanding. Like, if I didn't understand what you were doing, I understood the steps that you took to accomplish a said task, right? And I think a lot of times that's the way that we really do demonstrate that we know what we're talking about, by being able to talk about those skills. Hey, welcome in on TikTok. See y'all coming in. All right. I actually forgot to take a break to ask if y'all have any questions, and I do not see anybody asking questions, but just in case you do, just know that you can, even if you're watching this on a recording later. Okie dokie. Um, so my take is, if you can think of a story, then you can always answer any interview question, right? And so anytime you get a question, you always want to say, what is the story that I could tell when they ask me this question, right? How could I answer it in a way, even though I haven't maybe prepared for this, right? And it's like, think about the story and then answer the question and then go into the story and then do a wrap up, right? So what I say is to do a brief overview of yourself, right? Let's say you have a tell me about yourself, which everybody hates. Everybody hates tell me about yourself. So one of the things that you can do is say, I'm going to start off with a brief overview of myself, right? So I'd say something like, my name is Mercedes. I have 8 years of HR and DE&I experience. In my career, I started off as an intern in human resources, even though I didn't know that was my skill set at the time. I had really been doing a lot of programmatic and project work that really helped to embed DE&I, diversity, equity, inclusion into the work that I do. And so now I'm in a space where I've really grown and I love human resources and I love how I'm connecting diversity, equity, inclusion into the work that I do, but I'm really interested on focusing on this real time, right? Like I'm really interested in diving deeper into the work that I'm doing in HR and diversity, equity, inclusion. Sorry, I'm moving things around. Right. So that gives me a little bit of an overview. And then I can tell a little bit of a story, right? So maybe I want to talk about my story in recruitment and diversity, equity, and inclusion the most, right? So then I would say something like, yes, so just to kind of, put that into perspective, in my last role, my work, I was completely responsible for overseeing an inclusive hiring and recruitment team. We implemented XYZ, right? I'm telling the situation. I was tasked with kind of improving the services that this team provided. I was in charge of creating more resources. I was in charge of hiring X amount of people. And that's when I start to go into the result, right? In that star story. So I was talking about the task and the action. Now, if I was in an interview, I'd be telling this in a little bit more of a like detailed way. But the result here and I think that was really impactful when I was last interviewing is I talked about how the work that I was doing was not just about like, oh, we hired more diverse people, right? I was actually able to talk about the impact and talk about the results, right? So before I was leaving my last role, I sat down there and I tabulated and I calculated like what percentage of diverse talent we brought in. And so I was able to share that number. I'm not going to share that number here because I'm not putting any employers' businesses out on the street, but it was a great number. It was very impactful. And so if I wanted to talk about basically the skill set that I had, the evidence is in the numbers. And I'm going to say this here, I'm having none of those call you in moments. Look at me. If you leave an employer and you do not have access to the data of your impact, you have to stop doing that right now and you need to start collecting data. When I am writing resumes with the beautiful Black women that I'm working with, a lot of the times they do not have a way to conceptualize the work or to um, to provide a metric for the impact that they have made. Yes, you can go into your resume and you can kind of use metrics that feel or sound good, but I'm just letting you know, like when you have that data and you feel like you're able to really communicate that, that is so powerful in an interview, right? Because it's not like I'm saying what I said. Like, no, here's the numbers, right? And it helps you to build confidence around the impact that you make. We talk about building confidence, but it also shows them not only confidence, but competence, right? And we started off this whole session with that idea of confidence and competence. Okay. So because of that, then you're able to better communicate the value add, which is what I always recommend. A lot of times when people are interviewing, they talk about the star story, but they do not repackage it for the employer on the other side, right? So the employer wants to know, so what? Why do I care about this story? And you need to answer it for them. And that's what a lot of times we don't do. So if you're in a space where you feel like you're communicating a story, but you're not really sure how they're going to take it, if they won't understand it, it's probably because you're not talking about the value add. And the value add is taking your story and reconnecting it to the job of what they want, right? So in my case, if I have this great track record of diversifying workforces and that's what they want to do, I'm going to reconnect it and I'm going to say, based on my experience, having diversified this workforce by X percent, I'm looking forward to learning more about your organization and how I can use those skills to help you diversify your workforce, right? I'm making a direct connection with my background and experience. And I might even say something like, even from the beginning of my career, I have always taken steps, implemented programs, changed processes, changed systems to support the diversification of workforces, right? Like that truly wraps up. It's like this isn't just a blip on my radar, right? Like this is the work that I've been doing this whole time. This is why I'm really skilled. This is the impact that I can make. And that's how I'm going to work with you to do that. Okay. So anybody can answer the tell me about yourself. I know y'all hate it. Every time I say, what question do y'all want me to help you with? Tell me about yourself. Y'all can watch this recording later. And Amy on LinkedIn said, this is great information. Thank you so much for the love, Amy. And thank you for being here with me today. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are hanging in there with me. Okay. Ooh, I know. I really filled out. I feel like I talk too much, but that's okay. Y'all are getting a lot of information, so thank you. Okay, so interview tips as you're going into this about really selling your Black woman brilliance is to focus on building connection with another human, right? Again, I said I know there's plenty of people out there that are like, oh, I don't go to work to make friends. I do not dream of labor. This is nothing. I'm here for a paycheck. And I'm just really not about that energy, right? Like, I want to genuinely connect with the other person on the other side of the screen or the table, whether it's remote or in person. I want to know that if I have a rapport with that person in that interview, I'm more likely to enjoy working with them on a daily basis, right? For me, I do not want to just clock in. I want to enjoy my work. I'm with them all day. So my goal in that is, yes, to talk about my skills, but it is to build a connection. And if I don't have that connection, there's no reason for me to want to consider working there, right? I mean that. Like, we talk about, wanting to be in safer work environments. We talk about wanting to enjoy our work, right? What greater sign is there about your ability to thrive and be in a workplace that you want to be in than you connecting on a great level, not a deep emotional level. I almost said that, right? Because that's just like what my thoughts are about, like, connecting with others. But to connect genuinely with the other person. And I think we do not pay enough attention of that, of like whether we really vibed. Like, I want to know if I vibe with you before I accept this offer. Okay. Especially with your like next supervisor, right? And that is me as a person. But I think it's a great interviewing screening tool. All right. You can do what you want. Okay, so next one is decide that you don't care whether or not you get the job, because what is for you is for you. In this market, I talked about how challenging this job market is, even for people who are career coaches, even for people who are executives, even for people who have always kept a job, have a great career progression. It is a challenging job market. And so because of that, and particularly if we are coming from a place that is a toxic job, a lot of the times we will attach every single rejection to us not leaving, right? And so if you go into an interview and you say, I really don't care whether I get this job or not, I only want the job that is really meant for me, right? We are the unicorns, right? As much as we may want that job, we want them to want us for that job, right? And I don't want to go in any environment. And like I always say, I know this is coming from a place of privilege. I know this is coming from a place of like, I have a great career path and a great job history. I have a great education. And I have great impact in the work that I've done, right? So I'm not trying to minimize that if you don't feel like you're in a place to do that. But also part of that is that I believe that. Like, some people come to me and they are like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I need help. And they have an amazing, great career path. And they don't feel that way when they're talking to other people. And part of it is that you have to feel that way and ultimately decide that whatever is best for you will happen. It will come to pass. And to release whatever this is, right? Again, strong believer that a rejection is always a redirection to what is best for you. And I'm going to say this, sometimes the things that we're being directed to, we're facing that rejection over and over again because we're not focusing on what we're really supposed to be focusing on. And I say that because when I talked about the ikigai and I talked to you about being in misalignment at the beginning of this live, I basically said that I had not done the ikigai exercise that I needed to. I did not coach myself the way that I coach my clients in that moment. And I decided that what I was going to do is go from a talent acquisition position to another talent acquisition position. I was having the worst time applying to talent acquisition positions, even though that was my background. When I then switched to diversity, equity, and inclusion, I was more excited to apply. I was more interested in the jobs. I talked about my skill set in a more exciting, passionate way. And I showed up to interviews in a more excited, passionate way. And why is that? Because it was in alignment. It was where I was going. It was for my highest good. It allowed me to be the person that I am today, to have the skill set that I have today, to not only talk about like what is going on in HR, what is going on with DEI, and also how that impacts Black women. Like, that story is me today and allowed me to be that. So know what is for you is for you. I've gone on a lot of rants today, but that's fine. It's Friday. I have nowhere to go, nowhere to be. Okay. And the last thing is, again, talk about storytelling, impactful storytelling, and tell those things in detail. Don't shrink. Do not undermine yourself, and do not run through a story because you're worried that you're talking too much. Tell your story in an impactful way, in an exciting way. Same way I'm talking about my skill set. And some of y'all are still listening to me an hour and 9 minutes later. Oh, that's okay. Love y'all. Love y'all. Okay. So one of the things before we wrap up, this is kind of going to be the last piece of advice and guidance that I talk about, because I know interviewing is one of writing your resume and interviewing is one of the hardest parts of a pivot. But I want to say focus on you, like focus on your thoughts, your mindset, but also take these really quantifiable ways or these really tangible ways to move forward, right? Map out your star stories in advance, right? When especially when you're in an interview and you don't kind of think about your star stories going into there, that's a lot of times where you kind of take missteps, right? Map out your star stories before you start writing your resume, right? So you know where you're going, right? Talking about your stories is branding. It is the art of the pivot, right? If you don't know how you're communicating yourself and your skills, then it's harder to make a pivot. This is specifically for interviewing. Use I statements. A lot of the times as Black women, we're like, oh, we can't take credit for that. We shrink. We don't want to really be loud and out there about our skill sets and our abilities. And so we minimize ourselves, or we put our impact, we squeeze our impact into other people, whatever. We talk about it from the royal we or whatever. Talk about what you did. Say I. Doesn't matter if you were part of a team. You did something that enabled that project, that task, whatever, to be successful. We want to hear about you in an interview. We don't want to hear about the royal we. Okay. Quantifiable results. And then the last part is using affirmations. So I talked about the limiting beliefs. If you are on here later, this is in my profile. This right here is in my profile. It is my journal. All of the things that I'm teaching you today to go through to work on your mindset are all in here. All of them. The Ikigai discovery. Oops. The goal setting, right? If I could wave a magic wand and get an offer, this would be talking about shifting your mindset, what you've accomplished, talking about the limiting beliefs, talking about your knowledge, skills, and abilities. It's a little workbook in here. Again, there's a virtual version, or you can buy the physical version if you want. And then talking about future, right? Like why this matters, kind of stuff to keep you motivated. Of course, you can go through this earlier, but this is designed to be gone through in 28 days. So if you go through this in 28 days, you're going to be launching a great job search. It's free. Go find it. Okay. So before we wrap up, I'm going to answer any questions, whatever y'all want to know before we wrap up this live. But I just want to share, if you have really enjoyed this training, if you are enjoying the information, I'm going deeper and harder all the time in my Career Love community. So right now, if you haven't heard, I actually quit my full-time job to become a coach full-time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Your girl is about it. Your girl is about it. And so I am recreating the community that I've built to help Black women focus on their career, focus on their business, and focus on building a lifestyle that's in alignment, right? I'm all about alignment. And I think that if we are more strategic, my dog is, I hope y'all can't hear that. He is going ham on his paw. It is loud. Oh no. Okay, so if you want to join me for my launch party, I'm going to be doing a webinar. I'm going to be doing several events. I'm going to be launching this community in a new, exciting way. So if you want to join me for the launch party, if you are interested in joining the community, you better scan this QR code. Do you know you have 30 minutes on TikTok? TikTok, do you know you have 30 minutes? Because I won't see y'all later. But anyway, so if you want to join me for the launch party, there are a couple of ways that you can join. If you are on TikTok, yes, you can go to the link in my profile. You can register there. It's the first link when you go to the link on my profile. You can also scan this QR code if you have another device or whatever. Like that is how you can join me. For y'all on TikTok, y'all better go ahead and migrate somewhere else. Find me on YouTube, find me on LinkedIn, find me on Spill, find me on Fanbase, whatever. Okay. So that is for y'all. Y'all better go get some of this. It's a chicken salad. And for you all on YouTube, there is a link in the profile in the description where you can go you can go follow that link to sign up. And then on LinkedIn, I put a comment in there that says like how you can sign up to watch the next live and also how you can join me for the live party. So come on in, come on in. It's going to be fun. It's going to be lots of fun, and I would love to see you there, and I would love to see you in the community. This is a modified presentation from the community, okay? I'm gonna be doing shorter ones because y'all said I talk too much. No, they're not really. They said, "We want short content, Mercedes. Shut up." No, they're really sweet, so they would never tell me to shut up, but they did say they wanted short content. Y'all filled out that survey and said, "Girl, short. We got things to do. We are business women and we work a 9 to 5." And I was like, "You know what? I hear you." Okay, so anyway, join me for the lunch party if you want to be about it. It's going to be fun. And then also, if you are on the call, you want to do a mock interview because you need to build confidence, I'm going to help you with that. So you can also sign up for a one-on-one mock interview if you want. Oh, I need to make this other QR code go away so you can actually see that. But yeah, it would be exciting to, of course, work with you and help you hone those interview skills. So again, if you can go to my profile or you can scan one of these QR codes to join me. Okay. All right. All right. All right. And like run into my DMs if you have questions about it. Okay. So, last call for any questions. I always like to say if I don't have any questions, that means I did a good job, or maybe that I talk too much, but love y'all bad. And I will say thank you for joining me, and I'm wishing you best wishes on in your job search. My next event, I'm kind of not sure exactly which way I'm going to go. People have asked to talk about exit planning, exit strategy. And so I'm either going to talk about that from both a career and business standpoint, or I'm going to talk about the FAFO fund, which I talk about a lot, which is kind of creating a space to really be more intentional about our finances and figuring out a way that we can really build an emergency fund and build wealth. Is something that's important to me. And I understand we're in a market where it makes it really challenging to be able to build wealth. And it keeps just, getting worse and worse. Um, and so I'm not saying that to minimize the experience that any of us are having with the economy, but I'm wanting to more share like different strategies and ways that it's been helpful for me, because I definitely was absolutely living paycheck to paycheck for a large period of time until I really hit my exit number in October of 2024, which would allow me to do whatever I want when I want. And yeah, live my best life, whether that's as a business owner or somebody who works a 9 to 5. And right now, I'm in my business owner era, okay? And I'm enjoying it. Okay, y'all, I talk so much. Thank you for joining me. I don't have any questions. Hey, Nurse Danny, I'm getting off, girl. But I really appreciate you all for joining me. For my lovely people on TikTok, I'm going to miss you. Thank you for coming and hanging out for I think maybe my last live on here. For those of you on LinkedIn or YouTube, of course, leave me any questions afterwards. Always happy to answer questions, always happy to meet you all in the DMs. And so I appreciate you, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye. I'll see you on the next episode of The Clock Out.